prepared so much. I learned to play the show the way it is on the CD. I learned the way that they played it in New York was they set like a whole different recording and and it had all different fills. So I had like type A, B, and C that I could draw from, right? And some days it's just not your day. I go to the theater. It's the middle of February in New York, and the security. I'm like, I'm here for the Wicked audition. He's like, I don't have that on the schedule. Wait outside. It's February, so I'm walking around the block, freezing my butt off. I mean, like I got to the thing and like my hands were like stiff, you know, and you know, even with gloves, it was like 20 degrees maybe, you know, snow, ice everywhere. I get to the audition, I'm just trying to warm up, and I got to play drums I've never played before. And they're like, "All right, man, you ready? You ready to go?" Yeah. I was not ready. But I just wanted to be a team player and whatever, right? So we do the end of Wizard and I, which is like ba 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 da 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 do sa fla goom goom, right? We get to that ga goom, and I'm looking straight at the conductor and not the drums, and my stick went flying. Just one of them. I think the left hand one went flying, and I'm like, okay. Like, I didn't even have the wherewithal to set up my stick back because it was playing someone else's drums. So I was just like playing everything with one hand, and I remember the conductor was like, "Hey man, something like weird happened there." I said, "I'm so sorry, the stick went flying out of my hand. I used to play the drums, blah blah blah." He goes, "But you finished the tune, man. You're a trooper," you know. And then we tried playing it again, and like I didn't lose the stick, but I kept hitting the finger instead of actually hitting the drum. And he was like, "Did something okay?" And then like we started like in a different spot, and he can tell that I did the homework though. He could tell that like, you know, like you know, I could do it that way, I could do it the way that it was on the recording, I could do it the way, you know, it was on the pit recording they sent us. You know, I knew all the different ways to do it. And I didn't get the gig that time, you know. But guess what? It's okay. Because had I gotten that gig at the time, there were a lot of lessons I still needed to learn before I got that gig. And that's what happened. I got, you know, I had to learn, at the time I was playing a lot of jazz gigs, so I had sort of jazz feet. You know what I'm talking about? Do you guys know what I'm talking about for that, drummers? What am I saying?
Like, you're saying like you don't play very loud.
Yeah. Yeah, it was more like, it just wasn't present, you know, for what these pop shows want. So I would have been out there and it would have been miserable because I wouldn't have been able to figure that out. You know, the conductor would be like, "Hey, it doesn't sound right." A lot of these conductors don't know. They know it doesn't sound right to them, but they don't know how to tell you what it is. That, you know, it's just like a code you have to like break, you know, within yourself. Oh, it's not feeling right. What the hell am I supposed to do with that? Right? But, you know, like later on I had a conductor that was like, "Hey man, I think you have a little bit of jazz feet. Try playing the kick a little louder tonight." Great. So that was a big lesson I had to learn, right? Stuff like kick balance. That's a thing that, like, you know, when you're playing jazz, a lot of it's like the ride's prominent and everything else is underneath that. You're playing R&B, it's maybe the bass drum and the snare drum that's more prevalent, and maybe the hi-hat's a little bit lighter, right? And that's actually interesting, because like, you know, you go watch different shows, you watch the way people different approach the thing. The guy that took over for Gary, you know, his name Matt, you know, I was like, "Oh, I love the way he plays the hi-hat. It's so light and like free. It's not like, it's more like, and then like the snare just popped because the hi-hat was so light. It was awesome. I mean, this is like a jazz kid, so it sounds a little different, but it was really cool to to notice, observe these little things, the way that people hit the drums, the way someone strikes the piano, the way that somebody hold the notes. You know, I had the good fortune of when I went to Queens College, Roland Hanna was the piano player, and do you guys know who Roland Hanna is? Okay. Have you guys heard of Thad Jones, Mel Lewis, big band? He was like the original like in the original rhythm section. And this guy had a sound, he had these big, like sausage fingers, man. He could play the piano and just like, it rang forever. What a sound, you know? Like, he was really into, for piano players, he was really into like Rubinstein, and he was really into, you know what Rubinstein is? Oh, he's a classical guy. And Art Tatum. So those are his two big heroes. Art Tatum, you guys know who both of them are?
No, Art Tatum.
Okay, Art Tatum, okay. Well, Rubinstein's another one. He was, you know, because Roland does, here's like a little thing for you guys to try out, for the piano players or guitar players. Play all the things you are, but make it Bach, right? Play a standard, make it Chopin. You know, he did a good one to my friend. You guys ever heard of this piano player named Jed Patton? He's like, play Stella by Starlight, make it Scriabin. Scriabin, you know? And that was sort of a thing, that's sort of a way to approach, like, you know, you're getting into the songs, but you're also stylistically trying to emulate something else. And that actually helps a lot with composing as well, right? Because like, even the song that I did, the quarantine song, you know, that was like, okay, let me try to write something with a haunting melody that works, and it's not, you know, it sounds maybe like a Chopin thing, as opposed to like, I don't know, something else. And something that sounds lyrical, you know, something that's sort of emotion, giving you that sort of emotion or breakdown. And you guys have questions or anything? Yes.
I have a technique question.
Yes.
You brought up like jazz music and like that kind of thing. Because I started playing drums, I started playing jazz. You know, I play with my heel down.
Okay.
But I've seen you play with your heel up, and I think I saw you play with your heel down.
Yep.
So
Do both.
Yeah. So you think it's worth it to learn both? Like,
Oh yeah, yeah. You know why? Because it's a different attack. I mean, you know, if you're playing heel down, and you want to play louder, you can always play it more in the back of the pedal. I mean, one thing about Clarence is that Clarence, like, man, he like checks out all like the Jojo Mayer techniques. He's always sliding on the pedal and all that kind of stuff. He can do all that stuff. He's always checking that stuff out. He's always. That's another thing too. Is when you get out of school, you don't stop learning. You just keep growing as a musician. You keep evolving. Keep evolving as a player. I'm not the same player I was even 10 years ago. You know, I'm not even the same player I probably was when I did the record, just because of the experiences I've had. You know. So yeah, so technique, like, yeah, okay, and it all depends on what kind of sound you want on the bass. You know, like, if you want it soft, I mean, yeah, playing this is really great. You know, feathering, you know, I mean, I will say the one weakness I have now is because I'm not playing as much jazz, and I can't really feather like I used to. You know, certain tempos. I'm like, maybe it's too loud. I gotta go back. That's what I gotta go back and check. You know, but I also don't have a jazz kit that's open like this at home anymore. So, but, you know, but. Try it once, maybe through the line, you know, like, what is it, page 32, 33? Do the do the line with maybe the heel down, then do it heel up, see what it feels. It's a balance, it is a balance thing. It's a little bit different balance, I feel, when I'm playing the heel up. But it's also like, sometimes with the shows, there's actually a groove in the show, the Millions, that's like, sort of like a hip hop thing, and I find it's hard for me to get with the heel down. So the groove is like. So I think it just comes down to like, whatever you want to play heel up, heel down, if you could do it, great. But it's just easier to get a little more volume, it's easier to get a little more articulation for me, you know. And that's the thing too about technique, right? Technique is individual. Yes, there's certain things you want to do to have good technique, but you also want to be able to play. Not everybody's built the same way, you know. You know, I usually get, for theater stuff, I usually get a lot of questions about sight reading. Just that. It's not about sight reading. Sight reading helps you learn the music, but it's really about knowing the show. For example, I played my very first show, Broadway, subbing for Aladdin on Broadway, right? And it starts out. Big fanfare to me. The conductor does this. Did this, and I'm looking at the music. I kept playing loud. He was like, at the end of the show, he was like, "Thank you. You were so communicative with me. Everything I asked for, you did." Because if I'm still glued to the page, and he does this, I'm still going to play loud, right? And you also have to know that means, hey, play softer, keep it down. I can't hear what's going on. It's too loud. You know, like those are the kind of things. Even with Millions, right? There's a song called Saint Who, and I remember. It was like, the technique comes in that you have to have enough technique that if they say play quieter, you can. That's really what comes down. Technique is just so you can express yourself and serve the music. It's not so much about having Kirk Hudson has that chops because that's what he uses on his gigs, you know. But like most of us mere mortals, you just need to like play the thing. I think also the thing I try to always focus on is just make sure that the music feels good, you know. And I think that's why even as recently as this thing at the Alliance that I'm doing, you know. Yes, the demos are very like, this is what we want, you know, this is the groove. Okay, but I have to figure out how to play it so it's relaxed. There's another groove that they want me to transcribe that's like a bossa, but it's not really a bossa. And that one I try to play heel down, and it's basically this it's like almost an inverted bossa. So it's like soft, you know, it's the same groove, but like that's where the technique comes in for me. You know, you got to be able to play, and a lot of that too, actually, for drummers, rebound. Just let the rebound, let the stick do the work. Try to let the beat do the work. I mean, that's a lot of it. Just comes down to relaxing and letting physics do what it does. You know, even just, you know, that's just fingers. But it's still, I mean, it's a little chopsy, but. You know. Stick to the work. I'm always working those up tempos. That's the hardest thing because I don't get to play it ever. You know. Actually, it's funny. The new song that I'm working on is this. It's basically an ode to Mingus, and it's called Mingus Here's the Mingus, and it's like a blues, but it's everyone always plays up. They do up 3. You know. There's a record, a couple, you know, Wednesday night prayer meeting, live at Antibu's. I think that's the name of the record. Live at Antibu's is like, it's like, it's like, man, no one plays that anymore. I mean, not that you have to, but it's just like, I'm like, man, if people started doing that, that would make you stick out, because you're not just like, you play like a triple beat, you're supposed to duplicate. Like little things like that, that's how my weird science brain works. You know. Anybody questions, thoughts, concerns? Yes.
Sorry.
No, please.
I had a question about, there's been a couple times where you've kind of like not been able to play something because you haven't worked on it in a while. I was curious on how much of your practice time are you spending on maintenance and how much you're spending on learning new stuff?
Most of it's maintenance these days, but because I'm not home. When I'm home, I have more time. Currently working on a show, learning another show. So that eats a lot of time. But even that, right? Little Shop. I'm working on Little Shop parts, and there's this song that's right. But I notice for myself, when I'm doing 3 strokes in one hand, sometimes when I have to play the third triplet of the foot, double, it doesn't want to line up. So then what I do, syncopation. Right? So right now, I have show chops right now at the moment because I'm playing this show every day. I go to the theater every day early, but it's even with that, it's tough because like you go to the theater. I do practice stuff in the hotel room, but it's just the hands. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like a lot of it's like pad work on the bed, on a pillow. You know, so just try to keep my hands going. Right. So a lot of this stuff, I mean, also a lot of things, I don't get to play my music that much anymore, so that's why some of this stuff's a little rusty. You know, even when I'm home, it's like, you know, I'm working on like exercises for myself to get better at my weaknesses rather than play the music that I already play. Because you know, if it's different, I was like, you know, I've had a tour coming up for my music or even a gig for my music, but. You know, like I said, this last month before I left was all like learning. Okay, here's the demos. Except like, you know, Dropbox is full of all these demos, so it's like, okay, I gotta like kind of get this music in my head as much as I possibly can. You know. But that being said, you know, like one thing I'm always working on too is this alternating between it. You know. Just like singles with their hands and feet. Trying to just make sure that's solid because, you know, everything we play is a single stroke or double stroke. Or a combination. You know, either it's paradiddles. You know, it's still paradiddle diddle, right, left, right, left, right. So, you know, I mean, I'm sorry this is a little drummer, you know, thing right now, but. If anybody have any other questions? I mean, does that answer? I probably didn't answer your question though, did it?
No, it did.
Okay. Yeah, but it's also when I get to the theater, it's like I'll start warming up, and then the guy's got to come and check the mics. So it's like it's really hard to like even get when I'm at the theater to get any kind of consistency going. So you got to find ways during the day, or you know, I'm always listening to music. I'm always I can always do that, but it's different when you hold the sticks. And it was funny, you know, even within the day. On Saturday, my chops felt great in the morning, right? And then we went to Colony Square, and it was pouring outside. I come back, and it's like the sticks like felt like I don't know if it was because of the humidity in the air, but it just felt like, man, I can't play anything anymore. So I had to like kind of re-warm up, you know, and that's part of the consistency too. Maintenance is really. Because I gig right now, I'm just trying to maintain what I need to do for that gig. Mm-hmm. Now after next week, I'll go back and I'll have to like start like, you know, shedding different, just a lot more things. Because the show, I'm going to be doing a pops gig, doing the music of Star Wars. I'm going to be doing, hopefully some jazz gigs when I get back. And then that's the best part about being home is there's so many other. You don't just play one show, but it's really nice to have the steady employment as well. So, anyone else? Yes, sir.
When you're employed for like a show, how much, like on average, how much time do you usually have between like your first time playing music and the rest of the musicians and getting the music, or is it usually redoing something?
Well, this one was a little bit longer because both Sean Throw and I got the demos early because they were very specific about what they wanted from us. For me, a lot of it came from because what happened was I was initially going to drive down to here because I'm from New York. So I was going to initially drive down to here, but there was a whole thing with like, well, I got to rent a car. I got to rent a car then. It's going to take me a while. It's going to cost me a fortune to rent a car, blah, blah, blah. And they were just like, why don't we rent the drums from you? Great. Rent the drums. Okay, what kind of drums do you want? Take care of. It was like that kind of thing. So the orchestra was like, well, this is what the music sounds like. Okay, great. And actually, before they even sent me the demos, I went to the composer's website, and there was like 5 of the demos on there. And I was like, oh, this is what the music is. Okay. And one of the songs was, that song was on there. It's called Feel for This. The one that was really hard, the Lemon Sucker one, we'd be playing. That wasn't on there at all. So once that came down, and for me, like actually, I transcribed a lot of the demos, just so I can have an idea of. Sometimes I like to see it. Also, like when I write it out, I'm sort of working it out in my hands. Oh, so what is that? Oh, maybe that's what it is. Okay. And then I have an idea. Okay, yeah, and then I'll write it out. It's kind of like, and then you go back and you actually do the work, and you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. Sometimes that's where sight reading is helpful for me. It helps me see how the hands, this lines up. This is where this lines up. This is where that lines up. And actually, one of the first things I do for you guys that do actually talking about like more of a global thing in the music, I write my phrase markings there. As far as like a lot of drum parts, rhythm section parts, you get slashes, you get a lot of, it looks the same. Oh, the same line. Okay, this is an 8-bar phrase. And now in this particular show, there's a lot of like 9-bar phrases. So it's like, okay, 9, so I'll put 9 there at the end of the phrase. So I know, okay, that's the end of this verse is a 9-bar thing, and then the next time we start the chorus. Or whatever the song is. Some people will do like maybe write in like a word or something. Sometimes I'm like, well, maybe the actor might get off, so let me write the phrase. Maybe the 7-bar phrase, or maybe whatever. That's a sort of a thing. Like if you play a certain standard, maybe there's a weird bridge. So maybe 11 bars here or something as opposed to whatever. So that's another global, maybe a global thing that you do that you don't even think about. That helps me because that way I can watch the conductor and know this is 6 bars. Because it's like the same music. It's whatever that thing is. Whatever the groove is. It's usually very repetitive. That an orchestrator just copies and pastes. So you just want to make sure you have some kind of landmark in there. So when you look back in the music, you look at the conductor, you go, okay, we're here now. That kind of helps. And it also helps with learning it too. So like, okay, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 6. Okay, chorus, right? That kind of stuff. So I don't know. Anything else? No?
You keep hearing him say, watch the conductor. I'm watching the conductor. It is my sincere hope and prayer that all of you get to do a show at some point, or maybe lots and lots of shows at some point, because it's an entirely different set of skills. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to bring Greg in, because it's not like anything else, and it's somewhat amusing to watch strictly orchestral players think they can lower themselves to come and play in a pit and watch them just crash and burn because they don't have that inner flexibility or that, Greg says he's not playing He's playing for the show, he's playing the show. Well, invariably, someone's gonna drop a line, something weird's gonna happen, and that entire orchestra is gonna shift whatever they need to do to catch up or to find what's going on stage. That's the kind of thing that's, again, globally not taught. It just, you learn to do it over time. So even if you're not the drummer, if you're reading dots, keep your eye on the conductor at all times. Number one, it lets the conductor know you care. You're watching them.
Yeah.
And number two, they'll leave you alone. Okay? There's nothing worse than a conductor working your ass. It sucks. Okay? So watch the conductor, and the conductor will leave you alone. Okay? And then you can make music, which is ultimately what they want you to do.
And even the next level of that is break the code. If they do a certain gesture, a lot of times when we're playing a show, the conductor will do something like, "Oh my God, was that me?" Something might happen on stage. So know that person's what's like idiosyncrasies? Would that be like a good word? So okay, what they're trying to, if they're communicating with you, what they're trying to get you to do. Like when the guy went like this, I'm like, okay, I gotta play quieter, right? There's other times where Kim, the person who does conducting, she would do this, and because she wanted swells, I think. What did you say that, Luke? She wanted swells, and it's sort of she's trying to get the music out of, but every conductor has a different style. Here's a big thing for drummers and piano players, right? Some conductors want this, bop. Some conductors want this, bop. That's part of the code. That's part of the code. And it's really hard because the Latins were that it is too. The conductor wanted it, bop, 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 bop. He's like, "Greg, could you breathe more?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm breathing fine." No, he's like, "With me." And it was hard because as a drummer, when you see this, you want to hit with him, but you had to kind of wait a sec, and bop, And some of it's like this. Bop, like you're doing Les Mis. There's stories about Les Mis, but I'm like, what the hell is that? Bop, so that's the thing. You watch it that's one thing I like to do is if I like to watch certain orchestral performances or whatever. I like to see where the band's playing in relation to where the conductor is, because that's a good skill to develop, and that's the only way you're going to develop that skill. In fact, a lot of times now when you learn a show in New York, they send you a conductor video. So at least you know what the cues are. But it doesn't help you it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna play where the video is, if that makes sense. Because sometimes there's a delay. Sometimes there's a delay. So you still have to interpret in real time where everybody else is playing, and then you have to listen. You have to listen. I know that's a whole thing. But you have to listen to where the band's playing, and then you want to fit in. And it's not always easy. So that's part of the skill set stuff. I just had a couple of things that I wanted to say too, just because you guys are starting out, right? There's some red flags that I've run into in my time. This is a big one for me. If you meet someone for the first time, don't list your resume. If it comes up, it's cool. But if I meet you for the first time, "Hey, Britt, good to meet you. Hey man, well I've done this show and that show, and I've played with so and so," and so, I'm like, "Man, what are you trying to prove yourself to me for? I don't care." The thing is when people need to hear about you, they will, right? Man, because the way that work, everyone thinks it's a magic trick that you get gigs. No, it's, "Hey man, you called so and so for the gig. How do you do?" "Oh man, he sounded great." "Great. I'm gonna call him. Give me his number. I want to call him too." That's all it is. I don't need you giving me your whole list of resume and everyone you know and everyone you play with. Now, if there's a friend, "Hey, so-and-so said we should meet," that's cool. That's fine. But this is sort of a networking thing. Because, listen, I know you guys are on Instagram and you all write each other on Instagram, but it's not the same. There's still a very analog thing of having coffee with somebody and talking to them face to face, right? More than to just send him a message on the gram or Facebook or whatever you guys are using now. what is it? I have a 17-year-old daughter, so she's always on Snapchat.
Yeah, Brandon.
Yeah, man. No, but you know, but so I'm saying there's like stuff, you know, and you know, if there's someone that you're like, man, I really, don't be afraid to ask for a lesson for somebody if they have some knowledge that you think you would love to. You know, some guys you just want to go from very specific. Hey man, I would love to ask you about this, and this. You know, so that's sort of a thing. Like when you're young and starting out, you don't have to necessarily let your play. And there's also another thing I would like to say is there's a difference between arrogance and confidence, right? The arrogant person that's like, oh yeah, I know so and so, and I know so and so, and blah 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 blah. You know what confidence is? You let your playing do the talking. Right? There's a difference. It's a thin line, but it's a difference. Would you say so?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like if you just like for example, I went to the session the other day, and Justin Powell was like, hey, this is Greg, is cool drummer, you know, and Gordon was like, hey, why don't you come out and play? Great. I played. I didn't say 2 words. I just went up and played. I didn't was like, yeah, man, I sound great. You know, no one wants to hear that anyway. Nobody wants to hear about me. But if I play well and people like what I do, you know, and my thing was just like, I just want to go up there and make the music feel good. I'm not trying to get any accolades. I'm not trying to get my, you know, this thing that I was, you know, a lot, especially jazz guys. We practice in a room all day, and then we get to a session, and we want to just play everything that we just learned. It's like, let it come organically. Let it come organically. The nice thing about a theater gig that I like is that the music is usually already set. So I know. The thing that kind of got me out of playing jazz in a way was I sort of like got to a point where like I was getting so in my head that I didn't know when I was playing well. But theater, I know if I play a show, I know if I had a good show, right? So that's something to think about. Just like, you know, that's why it's cool. But now we have so many other ways to document ourselves and record things and say, oh, I like what I did there, you know. So, but that's just a little bit of my. Maybe my insecurity, I don't know, growing up. Like, you know, I remember like Alvesta Garnett was one of my teachers, and like I played once, and I think I played well. He was like, man, you were killing it. And the next week I went back and I thought I did great. He was like, man, that was terrible. And I was like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? You know, and it's like he never really explained why he didn't like the second week. That he liked the first week. I never really understood why. It felt different. I know how I felt, but I didn't understand maybe the big picture. And I was also like 21 at the time. Yeah, be careful, you know, maybe, you know, you want to take as many gigs as you can, but if you think, you know what, I'm in over my head, it's okay maybe not to do the gig because maybe it might ruin your reputation in the long run. Oh, this guy came and he wasn't prepared, right? That being said, for those of you that are jazz guys, here's another thing to do. Coming up in New York, there's a lot of jam sessions. And I remember certain guys would come to the jam sessions, and then guys would change the way they play. Oh, Roy Hargrove is here. We got to change it. They start playing everything, blah, 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 right? The guys that really are going to hire you are going to hire you because you're you. They want to hire you, not because they want you trying to impress them, right? If Whit Marsalis comes to town, hey man, I heard Brick, he's really killing. He swings his butt off. Okay, cool. That doesn't mean that you come and you play every Elvin lick that you ever learned. You know, just play time, because that was the thing. Like the older guys, you know, a really great friend of mine, his name is Jim Patton. He played with two great saxophone players. He used to play with the Heath brothers when he was like 20 years old. 25. He was like 25. He was playing the Village Vanguard, Jimmy Heath, you know, and now he's playing with Charles McPherson, you know. But you know what he does? He stayed true to his own art. He didn't like, I'm gonna play like McCoy now, you know, because so-and-so's here. So like, there's something to be said for that too. Like, you know, like, as you're trying to find your own voice in your instrument, don't try to change because you think someone's gonna be impressed if you do X, Y, and Z, you know. Did I talk about one point that I was going to say about my record that I forgot to say. So when Clarence said, think about shaping the music, and think about shaping the music, think about growing, building with a soloist, think about an arc as opposed to just playing your stuff. Don't just play the groove right away. The thing about that was maybe the best lesson I ever got, because not only did it change the way that I played, it changed the way that I listen to music now. So check that out, right? That's like